Yeah, we're not recording an orchestra.
Right.
It's just one single sound. So
Our stupid voice holes.
our stupid voices.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe,
You mean our guest tonight is...
dedicated to truth, justice, and peace. It's the world's greatest superpower show.
Welcome to Minding the Multiverse. My name is Gabriel,
My name is Jeremy.
and we are here to talk comics, culture, and the question, if you had $1 million, billion, jillion dollars, how much is too much to spend on batarangs?
Never enough.
You're my financial advisor. What percentage of my taxable income should I be spending on crime-fighting equipment?
All of it. You buy all of the equipment, and then since you have all of this equipment, you go out and you just, take what you want. Oh, wait, that's not the point.
Yeah, that's not really crime-fighting equipment. That's
Sorry.
more crime-encouraging equipment.
Let's just say you need all of the batarangs. Get all of the batarangs.
Just as many as you can get.
And as many toys as possible, yes.
Gotcha. Well, good. I'm glad that we ironed that out, because I know that the people who listen to the show, they come here for the hard facts and the numbers that we're able to provide. So I appreciate you lending your expertise in on this this matter.
Yes. Spend your money on shit that's not real. Facts.
Always encouraged here at Minding the Multiverse. All right. Well, we dive into that question and more as we explore this week's selection of 1987's Batman Year One from DC Comics. So this originally appeared as an arc in issues 404 through 407 of the flagship Batman comic. Did you know that?
I did not know that. No, I always thought that this was a standalone thing that he was, just tapped to write. I wasn't aware that it even released in single issue form, and now it's on my wish list of books to get.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I always thought it was just like a one-off collection. And when I was starting to do the research for the episode, one, I didn't know it was that old. I thought year one was later. And then two, yeah, it was in the regular run. So here's this huge milestone story that has influenced 100 other stories and movies and all that stuff. And here it was in a regular run on issue 404 of Batman.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was unaware, and I haven't really read a lot of Batman from back then. It's only been new Batman,
Right.
My fandom started when I was 10, and I was born in 80, so I didn't read any of that stuff. I found Year One as an adult, and it was in the trade paperback form. So yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, and it's because this particular story has been reprinted a zillion times in hardcovers and trades and collections and everything. Like every form of media that this can be translated to, it has been, including in 2011, it had an animated adaptation. And have you seen that?
That, and again, no, I didn't know that. Like I have seen a lot of the DC cartoons, and they're all very good, usually better than their live action movies. But again, no idea. It makes us bad fans, I'd say. we have a show about comics, and we should know this stuff, but no, that was news to me.
Listen, the point of this show is to learn more about the medium we love, and this is us learning that 10 years ago, there was a critically acclaimed animated adaptation of this particular story. So actually, after going through this, I haven't read Batman Year One. That's one of the conceits of this show is wrapped around is that there are these huge milestone stories that we haven't read. We know the background, and we know what they've influenced, and we know it kind of pop culturally, but we haven't actually read it ourselves. So as I'm diving into this, I'm looking forward to hearing your interpretation of it, and I'm now looking forward to reading it, and I think I want to check out the animated adaptation, because what I understand, it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I love cartoons. I love anything comic book related when it comes to TV shows. So
yeah,
I will definitely be looking forward to seeing that that cartoon, the animated movie.
And Batman has a long history of being animated back in the Super Friends back in the 70s, and then my favorite. Did you watch the animated series from the 90s?
Absolutely.
That was amazing. That was a really great piece of art.
It really was. It was so much better than any cartoon out at the time,
Absolutely.
And I'm not comparing it to like Looney Tunes, totally different.
Right, but that's what was its contemporaries at the time.
Right.
So we were watching things that were silly, and that was great. When you're a kid, you like that kind of stuff, big bright colors and jokes, and it's still good writing, just a lot of it very physical and
gratuitous cartoon violence,
which everybody loves,
which is sorely missed in today's cartoons.
I don't know. I think today's cartoons are pretty violent. Like I'm immediately thinking of later on our hold list when I'm going to talk about Solar Opposites.
Well, that's an adult cartoon. I'm talking about like Saturday morning kids cartoons.
Are there still
that's when
Saturday morning cartoons? You have kids? Are there still?
They do. They still have cartoons. They still do kids shows in the mornings on the weekends. Mm-hmm. But they're nothing like Merry Melodies, Looney Tunes. For all the young people listening right now, they probably have no clue what I'm talking about. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, those guys. Marvin the Martian, Wile E. Coyote, those guys.
All the characters you see on people's pajama pants walking around Walmart. Those are your...
Exactly.
That's what your Looney Tune characters have been reduced to.
Yeah, ironically, because they probably don't even know who the hell those characters are.
They're cute. But no, like you said, I mean, it had great art that a lot of, I know for me, I didn't know what Art Deco was at that time. And here it was, right in your face. And it was, the characters look great and the buildings look great and the Batmobile is ridiculous and it looks amazing.
Right. It looks amazing. Yeah.
And it was this other influence coming into your home, mm-hmm. and the writing was amazing. Like we weren't, at least I wasn't used to deep writing in a cartoon. I read a lot as a kid, but those were two separate things. There was like books and there's cartoons, and cartoons were just kind of snacks, but
right.
when this rolled out, it was suddenly like, oh, these are real stories,
Yeah, it was truly top shelf shit,
Yes.
It made kids like I know that a lot of people were tired of the silliness, and that was a nice break. It was still a cartoon. You had the Joker and all that kind of stuff. But,
right.
It was serious. It was Batman fighting crime, and it was done in a... Like, they took it serious. The people who made the show took it serious. So It was a serious show, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think that it's important that, like, it came to your home every day.
Right.
You didn't have to go get it at a shop. Like regular comics, you didn't have to wait a month. Like if you had a home subscription, every day, more Batman. Like every day, you had fresh Batman served up to you.
Right.
And I think as a young person getting into comics, it was like there was this bridge of I didn't have to wait till next month to get the next issue. I didn't have to or when you're a kid. You gotta get a ride. You gotta work around your parents' schedule, stuff like that. It was a thing to go to the comic store, but having it just piped into our house at 4:30 p.m. on Channel 2 KTVU San Francisco every day,
right?
Like that was critical, I think, to my like burgeoning interest.
Did you watch it when it first came out in 1992? Did you see it, or did you start to watch it after it became serialized?
I want to say I caught it in real time because I remember like waiting for new episodes and being excited, like because the title cards were always beautiful,
right?
And you'd see one you didn't recognize, and it was like, oh snap! Everybody shut up! Right. I don't know this one by heart yet.
Yeah, it really was. Best.
And in an age before streaming, it's like you couldn't just get a fix for something that was quality. You had to take what was there, and to have this spot, after school, before dinner, like the spot of like quality programming.
Yeah, because this wasn't. It was in the afternoon. It
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, it had to have been because I caught it. My brother and I caught it after school. We took the bus. We lived out, like pretty far from school, so it had to have been 4:30. But when I was looking at the background of it, it was also an evening show, like The Simpsons,
Oh, see, I didn't know that either. Like it took up a primetime spot.
which coincidentally is why it has such a great theme song. So originally they approached Danny Elfman to do the theme song, and he was like, for a Saturday morning cartoon, like, no, thanks, I'm good. I'm a real musician.
Like I'm Danny Elfman, thanks,
Right.
but no thanks.
And then they said, well, it's on Fox and it's in the evening, like The Simpsons. And remember that enormous check you got from The Simpsons? Do you want another one of those? And he said, boy, howdy do I.
Boy, do I! I love Batman in the evenings.
That's right. He was suddenly a fan. So he whipped up a real theme song. Like that has a memorable orchestra theme song. So that's all because Fox decided to put it on in the evening for one season.
Hey, money talks, and it's that memorable. It worked.
It did work. So I am thankful for that. So
Absolutely.
before we get into the meat of this 12-course meal we're about to serve up for you, I had a question for you, Jeremy. Are you aware of the controversy surrounding this story and Kevin Smith, my podcasting patronus and personal Jort messiah?
Jorts. No, I am not aware of any controversy. You need to tell me.
In 2009, he wrote the Widening Gyre story arc. And in it, Batman reveals to Baphomet that during his first year as Batman, so during this year one arc that we're going to cover right now, in a scene where he makes a dramatic appearance by blowing out a wall, he has a bladder spasm.
A bladder. So he pees his batsuit.
Just a little bit. And it's due to underestimating the force of the explosives he used.
It's bound to affect you if you're too close. Yeah.
It's written as Batman and Baphomet just hanging out during a stakeout, and Batman's, he's trying to like reach out and like make a friend. And Baphomet is new to heroing, so Batman's like, he's trying to give him like a little advice. Like it's kind of a sweet moment. Like,
Right.
what would I have liked to have known starting out? But a very vocal fan minority really just saw it as Silent Bob making Batman pee his pants, and it did not go over great.
Well, I mean, I see where Kevin Smith is coming from. First of all, I mean, humor. It's Kevin Smith, so he's going to go for a funny angle, and not everything that Batman was doing at the he didn't know what he was doing. He was learning, and he's human. He's got a human body.
Sure.
So not knowing,
Sure.
that something like an explosion can affect your internal organs if you're too close. Hey, that's a funny situation. I'm not mad. I didn't even know it happened until now, and that's fine. Hey, whatever. Batman peed his cape.
Yeah, and it's an important thing to pass on to another new hero. Like, hey, heads up, tune it back from 11 down to like an 8. Still, you'll get the same reaction, but you don't have to wash your suit immediately afterwards.
You steer clear of coffee before a night of crime fighting.
I know your instinct is to get some coffee, stay awake,
Yeah,
but listen,
no.
suit's not easy to take off. So there's layers.
Yeah.
But on a podcast later, Kevin Smith talks about how that's a real thing. And one of his childhood friends is a firefighter, and that's how he learned about it. So apparently a strong enough backdraft will make you pee a little. So,
Well, see, it's grounded in reality. That makes it even funnier.
absolutely. So hashtag firefighter fun facts.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thanks, Kevin Smith.
always shining a light in the darkness. That's Kevin. All right. With that, we'll get right into it. So this week we are covering the Miller Mazzucchelli classic, Batman Year One.
Yep. And like we talked about earlier, found out that it originally ran a long time ago, a lot longer than both of us thought. I believe that the actual 4 issues ran between 86 and 87. I know it's only 4 issues, but it was right around that time.
I was 5 years old.
Yeah, we were not really capable of reading these stories at that point.
We probably weren't the target market for Frank Miller.
Probably not.
At that point.
It's not like this book is like our last episode of The Boys. It's nothing like that. This is written a long time ago, so there's nothing crazy like that. There's a lot less rape in this book. There's a lot less horribleness.
Just less? Well, I was hoping we'd get away with none.
It's less. It's not none.
Okay.
It's less. It's less, yes.
All right. Well, at least we're going in the right direction.
Right. For now. Until we have to revisit anyways. So the colors are done by a fella named Richmond Lewis, and letter is Todd Klein. So this is actually a fairly easy read. It's a pretty familiar story. If you're a fan of Batman, you've seen his movies, you may have read a comic book or two. And a lot of people are aware of how many stories there are out there of Batman's beginnings, what he did. A lot of people know that his parents were murdered, and that started the whole thing, right?
Right.
And I feel like, it drove Bruce Wayne insane. It's a type of insane. You have to be crazy to do what Bruce Wayne does.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Yes. Yes. And it's like it's insanity pointed in the right air quotes direction, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And this book, year one, this arc is also not just about Bruce Wayne in his first year. You might think, the covers all have Batman on them and it's Batman year one, but it's actually about Lieutenant Jim Gordon as well.
So before he's commissioner. This is
Yes.
pre-commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
This is like baby Gordon.
Yeah, he's just arriving into Gotham in the beginning of the story, as is Bruce Wayne. And as I go through the story, I don't want to give away too much. I want people to go out and pick this book up, either single issues or the trade paperback, and give it a read for themselves. So I'm just going to go over the story per chapter and see how people think.
Nice. Yeah, and good luck getting those single issues, by the way. You might have better luck picking up one of the 100 million versions of the trade paperback, but those original issues, I think will keep you going for a while.
No kidding. I have not looked up how much they may cost me, but I love my first edition comics. I love having, and since it's only 4 comic books,
Right.
I might be able to get it someday. I haven't looked it up. So.
It would be a good one to have. It'd be a good one to have. Yeah, it's very true.
They'd look good in CGC cases hanging up on my wall.
They have great covers. I was looking at the covers of these because I was getting the artwork for the YouTube version of the show, and yeah, has some pretty great covers.
Yeah, the covers are pretty rad, and I looked them up and I saw that they were in fact separate issues, which again didn't know.
75 cents a copy, by the way.
Is that how much they were?
Yes, they were.
Oh my god. Oh man, if only.
You get that and a pack of gum for $1.
Jeez. Back in the day, it's $4, almost $5 now for a comic book. Anyway, we digress. It's a story of 2 people. It's not just Bruce Wayne. And chapter 1 is called Who I Am and How I Come to Be. And this is year 1, so it opens up on January 4th, so beginning of the year. It opens with Gordon, Lieutenant.
So who's telling this story? Is it from anyone's particular perspective? Is it just like a omniscient narrator, or is it like told from Bruce's perspective or Gordon's perspective?
It's told from both of their perspectives, and there's a nifty little trick that the artists / writer use in the book to denote who's thinking or whose dialogue, whose inner monologue is happening right now. They do that with different types of word bubbles. It's really cool. Jim Gordon is like a yellow notebook, like something a cop might write notes on. Mm-hmm. And then for Bruce Wayne, it's like a ripped piece of paper, and it's white and it's all in cursive. So which
I thought was interesting. The different handwriting styles. When I was looking at a few previews of the artwork, is that it has a very like. And we were talking about this earlier, that it's the visual representation is like a rich person's like fantasy,
right, versus
like a working class person's job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Batman's, his phrasing is kind of flowery, and it's like it's a journal, but it's like it's very like, I'm doing all this important stuff. And then for Jim, it's like this happened, and then this happened,
right,
and then this happened.
Right. And it's notes. He's taking notes on on where he's at. It's not frilly or foofy.
Like a cop.
Like a cop, you know?
Right. He's taking cop notes.
And he's a detective, so it's all very analytical, you know? Whereas Bruce, he's a highly educated rich boy flying in. Who's, you know,
in the deep depths of fantasy, you know? So like, it's like.
That's that insanity we were talking about.
Right. It's an interesting visual representation of that. It's like, he's liking this. You know, but Jim doesn't.
No, and see, Jim arrives in the city by train, you know, and he's remarking how he's so happy that he's having his wife Barbara fly in because she won't see the city the way he's seeing it right now. You know, it's very apparent that Gotham is not doing well. You know, he's in the muck on that train. And she's flying in, so she at least is going to be spared that when she arrives, because he's newly assigned here. They didn't live here, so they're both arriving. And then Bruce comes in. You know, he's arriving, and he's been gone for 12 years. He's 25 at this point in the story, and the book doesn't get into where he's been, but we all know that he's out and about doing his training
through various decades of retconning.
Exactly.
We have a general idea of where he spent his Jesus years.
Yeah. Pick your origin story as to where he was. You know what I mean? It's Bruce training, and now he's coming back because now it's time. You know.
Got it.
He's not super prepared in this version of his origin. You know, he's still learning. He doesn't have a full plan at this point. But Bruce flies in, and he's seeing the city from a different perspective, still knowing that it's a cesspool, you know, from
now,
up.
Is he flying like coach or like private plane?
It looks, I mean, the panel shows just like a regular airliner. So he's probably in like first class of a 747 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And he's remarking at how at that height, you know, things look clean. Things look kind of pretty. You know, all the snow on the roofs is like inviting, but he knows that it's not true, and that he should have come in the way Jim did. He should have come in on the ground level with the enemy, is how he puts it. You know, he feels like, you know what, flying in, that was the wrong thing to do. He should have been down at their level. You know?
So already Jim is doing the things that Batman feels like he should do, but kind of has the luxury of not doing.
Yeah, you know, Bruce Wayne arriving back into Gotham after 12 years. He can't arrive in a car or on a train. He has to make the entrance, whereas nobody gives a shit about Jim Gordon, you know.
Right, yeah, he's just a guy going to work.
He's just a guy going to work, and nobody knows him. He's new to the town. He has no reputation, you know, outside of the department.
Yeah.
You know, but Bruce wants to be on the ground, but he can't. He knows that he has to keep up his rich guy persona. At least he knows that at this point.
Right. Okay. So he's leaning into the dual persona early.
It seems so.
I got to be a rich guy over here, but I'm also a crazy person dressed entirely in black leather, likes to punch people in the dark.
He knows that he has to have his Bruce Wayne Playboy millionaire persona immediately. He can't arrive by train. He has to fly in. Makes sense.
Which you see a lot in Batman Begins.
Oh yeah, big grandiose entrances.
Yeah, and putting on the play of being kind of a jackass to throw off the scent of you being altruistic in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, a boozer, a playboy, doesn't give a crap about anything. He just throws money around. You know, I mean, they don't get into that a lot in this book, but it's still very apparent that Bruce knows that he has to play that part.
And I do think it's interesting in Batman Begins how Bruce comes into the hotel and then tells the maitre d' that he's going to buy the hotel. I don't think the maitre d' has that kind of authority or knows where the deed is.
I don't. Yeah, and that works well though, because that throws it. No, how is it, Bruce? He's a jackass. Like he was talking to me about buying
he's
shit.
He's also an idiot. Right. Yeah. So you want to throw him off of you being the world's greatest detective.
Yeah, he's just this asshat who's rich because of Daddy. Now that Daddy's gone, you finally take over the company. You know,
after Mommy and Daddy were brutally murdered in an alleyway
right in front of your little kid face.
So moving on.
So he flies in, doesn't like that, wants to be on the ground. Jim rides a train in and is thanking everything that his wife isn't arriving on the ground.
Right. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it kind of shows you, they both realize what this city is and how horrible Gotham is at this point. Immediately, Jim is introduced to a cop named Flass, Lieutenant Detective Flass. And all right off the bat, I'm not going to get into the details of what's said because I want everybody to read this for themselves, but it's very obvious that Detective Flass, not a good guy.
No.
Definitely not a good man. Yeah.
Okay.
Bruce comes in like you would expect. There's reporters waiting for him. He's got to do the Playboy millionaire thing, declines comments, and just kind of rushes past that type of thing. But Jim, he's not happy to be there. It's very well known it gets to be well known later in the story that Jim does not like his job, but he has a compulsion.
Well, now, was he transferred like against his will, or did he want to go there?
Doesn't really get into that as far as I know. Oh, well, actually it does. It does get into that.
Okay.
It's later on in the story when he's introduced. So this Detective Flass, he takes him to the commissioner. And the commissioner at this point is Commissioner, it's Loeb. Is that Loeb or Leb?
Traditionally Loeb.
Loeb. All right. So Commissioner Loeb. And the commissioner, he also immediately, it's not, this is Gotham. So nobody is really like trying to hide anything. Sure, the commissioner doesn't use words that says, hey, I'm a bad son of a bitch, and if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to die. It's lots of fancy words, and it's very much implied. It's hey, loyalty and falling in line and doing what you need to do, and the whole cops, us, the organization before anything else. It's the commissioner makes it very well known that Jim needs to just fall in line, and he's doing him a favor because Jim has transferred because of some issues at his other assignment.
Okay.
I don't recall if they go into what those issues were.
Got it.
But his reputation precedes him for being kind of a troublemaker. But see, Jim Gordon is like the ultimate good guy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So he's like,
Right.
he's this story's untaintable. You know what I mean? He's uncorruptible. He is an ultimate good cop. And so Jim Gordon is not impressed with these people.
Because like right now I'm getting like serious like Seven vibes off of this,
Right.
and now I'm just afraid that like Barbara Gordon's head's gonna end up in a box somewhere.
Well, nothing so savage, thankfully.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you for assuaging that fear.
No,
right off the bat.
Nothing.
Thank you. Okay.
Nothing so severe. This is only like we said. This is 4 issues. That would be a whole lot to pack in. That would be going from 0 to 100. So no, nothing like that.
That's like 2 pages in a Garth Ennis book,
Yeah, no shit.
and then she would have been cannibalized afterwards.
No kidding. No kidding. I love Ennis. Anyway,
All right, so we'll go back to the mild and friendly Frank Miller instead.
mild. So he's introduced to Flass. Flass picks him up from the airport, or from the train station rather. Flass is not a good guy. He goes to see the commissioner. Commissioner's not a good guy. He's not impressed with either of these freaking goons, right? Bruce, on the other hand, he seems happy to be back. He knows where he's coming to. It's his home. He knows that Gotham is bad, and he's happy. Like he's relieved to finally be back because he's got something to do.
Okay, so he already has a plan.
He's
come back for the purpose of whooping some ass.
He is happy to be back because he finally gets to kick some ass.
Okay,
He doesn't have the full plan yet. He's at this point he is not Batman.
Okay.
He's just getting back into town, and he doesn't even have the bat suit. Like, this is very beginnings. So after we get introduced to these people, and Bruce, he pays a visit to his parents, and that's a very quick thing. There's not a lot of dialogue with any of that kind of stuff, but it shows a little bit of montage here and there of just what kind of people Jim Gordon gets to work with, the police force, and then it shows a little bit of Bruce training. It's pretty typical stuff you'd see in a book like this. But Jim, as we go along, he won't fall in line. He is uncorruptible. He's a good guy. So Gordon is doing everything by the books. He's doing everything that a good cop is supposed to do, and that's messing shit up. This very first chapter, it shows that, Gordon is a good guy. He's a good cop. And Flass and all his goons and the commissioner, none of these people like it.
So is the majority is bad. Like the police department has a corruption problem.
Yep. Almost everybody is totally corrupt. It's mentioned later that, there are people that are untouchable as well, at least at first. Like, we are introduced to Harvey Dent in this series. We all know what happens with Harvey Dent, but at this point, he's still that ultimate good guy, uncorruptible. And things kind of go downhill pretty fast. And Gordon gets toned up by Flass and his goons. The Detective Flass doesn't actually do any of it. He's in the background. Gordon can hear him laughing. It's a familiar chuckle, he says. But he gets roughed up just enough not to go to the hospital, but it's pretty bad, right?
Really?
Oh, yeah. So it goes pretty fast. Each chapter is multiple months throughout the year. And so there's a lot of jumping like ahead. You just kind of have to assume that time has passed and things are going the way you would expect they go for Gordon. He's a good cop, so he's doing good work, that kind of thing.
Got it.
And it's just mucking shit up for all the higher-ups.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't like it. And this Flass guy, he's like the number one goon for these rich, jerkwads that are ruining the city. And he... he's very intimidating. He's an old Green Beret, large fellow, right?
Ah, that helps.
So that's what happens. Gordon is doing what he said he was going to do, which is his best work, and he gets messed up. At this point, it shows Bruce going out for a walk, and he decides to go to the worst part of town, just as he feared. It's just gotten worse, and this is the area of town where his parents were murdered. So he's going to check out just how bad things have gotten.
Nice stroll down Crime Alley.
Yes. I think it's called the East End. I have the book here. I'll thumb through and find it. But yeah, he's in the worst part of town.
Got it.
We're introduced to Selina in this section of this first chapter. Selina Kyle, who is Catwoman. She pops up in the book a few times. I'll mention it later, but I don't really understand why. I'm going to guess that because she's in year one, and this was part of the regular run back then, that she pops up later after issue 407.
Right. So, yeah, because this wasn't meant to be a completely standalone story.
Right.
Yeah, you'd have continuity after.
Yeah, exactly. And because that's what I was thinking when I actually read this for the first time. I recall, like, okay, so Catwoman's here, but her time in this 4-book series is kind of pointless,
Like, Catwoman's here, but why?
Just because, yeah. So, I mean, now that I know that it was part of the original, and it makes sense. She came in later. Okay, that makes sense. I get it. So Bruce is walking down the street. Long story short, shit doesn't go right. He can't help himself but to get involved. His inner monologue is telling him, just stop, keep going. This is, this is getting too dangerous. Don't get involved yet. He's just in street clothes. He did put on a little, scar on his face and a little bit of makeup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does a little makeup?
Yeah, he does a little bit of undercover makeup type stuff so that people don't recognize him. That way he can not be bothered, right?
It's like Dark Man. All right.
Exactly, yeah. He had to change his appearance up, and he's got a beanie on and a leather jacket, jeans, whatever, right?
But no, like, domino mask.
No.
Nothing superhero-y.
Nope. Yeah, just old school shit stuck to his face to make him look like something he's not.
Little spirit gum.
Yeah.
You're on your way.
Exactly. Anyways, it goes south. He tries to help this little kid who's being pimped out by this awful guy. Ugh. And there's some really good panels that shows him, scuffling with these fools. The kid actually ends up not being very appreciative of Bruce's help and stabs him in the leg. And like he grabs the kid's arm and twists her wrist and it hurts her, and Selina actually sees that and says, oh hell no, nobody hurts this kid. I can't remember her name. And she jumps down, but he knocks her out. And then the cops, for some reason, show up because of all this stuff that's happening. And the cops are no good. They're terrible.
Sure.
They're crooked. They're crooked cops.
Right.
They show up and he gets hit.
Really?
Yeah, he gets hit.
So he actually gets shot, like shot.
He
right?
does. He gets shot. First, he's stabbed by the kid who was not happy to be helped, and he grabs her, twists her arm, and Selina sees that and says, "Nobody hurt." Oh, her Holly. Her name is Holly. So he's scuffling with all these people. He scuffles with Selina very shortly. He can tell, and again, there's an inner monologue through all of this stuff. Anytime Bruce is on the page, there's an inner monologue. Anytime
there's those notes,
there's his notes, right? It's what he's going through in his head. It's same with all the scenes with Jim. right? So you get all of this nice little banter of him kind of noting that, oh, this girl's trained. She can throw a kick, she can throw a punch, she moves fast. Like, but he, it's Batman. He may not be Batman yet, so he gives her a good crack on the chin and knocks her out. The crooked cops show up and immediately fire. They just shoot, hits him in the. It's like the shoulder, based off of this here. It's like his shoulder, and he blacks out. They throw him in the back of the.
I was wondering how much of an influence, because Batman famously, will never use a gun unless you're Zack Snyder. But traditionally, Batman doesn't use a gun, and I was wondering if obviously it's a reference back to Joe Chill shooting his parents.
Correct. Yeah.
But I also wonder if it's like right out the gate, your first night as Batman, you get shot, and you're like, that hurts like a mother trucker. Like I'm gonna ease back just 2 notches, and I hit them with batarangs.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the inner monologue. This was supposed to just be a stroll. He was supposed to just
he was on a walk
10
minutes ago.
Yeah, he's supposed to just be looking at the city and seeing just what he's up against, but he can't help himself. He gets involved, and it just goes south that fast.
Sure.
And when the cops show up, it's just an immediate fight. They just get out of the car and blam. Like they don't even hesitate.
And he's not even dressed as a giant bat at this point. Like he's just a regular guy.
Street clothes and a disguise, So he gets cuffed and thrown in the back of their car. And there's some really cool dialogue that I don't want to give away. It's an awesome scene. He gets out of the cuffs. Let's just put it that way.
Sure,
but in doing so, the cops crash. And the car flips over onto its side and catches fire. Bruce is barely able to get out. He can't help the cops. And his inner, dialogue is how he screwed up. How he messed up.
Right.
And that
now his goof up has like actually killed 2 people.
They could have been good cops. They could have been bad cops. He doesn't know at this point.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So, these cops may have been families or something that he thinks to himself. Right.
Yeah. it could have been Gordon for all he knew, because he doesn't know Gordon at this point.
At this point,
could have been a cop. Could have just like that.
Right. Could have been a good cop.
And now because Batman because Bruce Wayne didn't plan, because he went into it willy-nilly, 2 innocent people were killed.
Yes.
Which would really go towards like his just obsession with planning and knowing all the angles and being the world's greatest detective.
Absolutely.
I can see where that comes from.
Yeah. All of his mistakes in the beginning lead to how methodical he gets. And that's actually part of his inner dialogue later in this story, is how he is talking about, or he's thinking to himself everything that he fucked up, basically, and how innocent people died, and he needs to slow down, and he needs to plan, and he needs to have methods for everything, because
he got shot. Like nothing worked out.
Yeah, nothing.
No. The victim he was saving stabbed him. Another vigilante beat him up.
Yep. Yeah, he got jumped.
He gets shot.
Nobody was scared of him.
Burns 2 cops to death. This is a rough first night, man.
Very rough. He's nearly passing out. He made it back to his car, blood running down his arm, and it immediately cuts from that point where he gets to his car, barely escapes to his car, to Jim Gordon after he got roughed up by Flass and his goons. Like he's in his car and he's asking, where are these people? Hey, where's Flass? Oh, he's with the boys, at a game or whatever. So at this point, Gordon has been dealing with these bad cops for a while, so he kind of knows where everybody's going to be at when he's told that he's with the guys. He knows where that is. So he's in his car all bloody after this beating with a bat. And he almost gets run off the road by a very swervy, speeding, blood loss, almost passing out Bruce Wayne.
Oh, no.
But because Gordon is on a mission himself, he kind of just lets that go, right? Maniac, and just keeps going.
It was the 80s. You just got to listen.
You just got to let it go, right?
I got bigger fish to fry.
So that's what his first night out in Gotham was like for Bruce. Was
wildly successful. Obviously,
at getting him almost dead.
I can see why he would want to do it again immediately.
I know, right? I mean, what sane person wouldn't want to go out immediately?
Like that worked out great.
Yeah.
Let's see, a few minor tweaks. Lessons were learned, mistakes were made. Can't make an omelet.
I think
that.
It's kind of funny that he immediately realizes that people aren't as scared of other people as he thought. Like there's some inner dialogue where he's like, they're not scared.
Oh, so he was expecting to just be able to intimidate people all on his own.
Yep. He knew how trained he is. He knows that he's a dangerous person. But to everybody else, he's just another schmuck
just a guy.
Yeah, in the red light district, in the worst part of
Right.
town. He's just another junkie,
He's just another mark.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just another person to exactly. So that's how his first night goes. But Jim, it cuts to him, and he follows Flass, or he goes to where Flass is at a poker game, and he just sits in the car. And this is right after he got messed up, right? So he's still bleeding, he's still bruised up, and he comments how he's sitting there for hours. He starts to get real stiff, and his muscles just aren't working the way that they should at this point. It's some pretty cool panels, and you know me, I'm into art, and this isn't my favorite type of art, but it really does a really great job of conveying how people are feeling.
That's what its goal is,
right?
Especially in comic art, is to really convey what the writer is trying to get across. I'm sure there was a million notes from Frank Miller going, it has to look like this.
Exactly.
It has to push this. This is what I'm going for.
Yeah, and back in the late 80s, early 90s, Frank Miller was already drawing his own stuff, if I recall correctly. So I'm sure he had a lot to say about it. And there's actually a lot of these panels do have like a Sin City feel to them, because there's just a lot of black and white. Yeah.
I was wondering if he was influenced by Mazzucchelli later, because there's a few kind of portraitures that have almost like a grotesque quality to them that you see Miller start to use a lot later. But even in like when he did RoboCop and stuff like that, like it has that kind of Dark Knight Returns clunky,
very clunky
style.
Jagged, very
personalized.
His style is definitely his own.
Right.
So Gordon, he finds this house, or he goes to the house where he waits for Flass. Everybody else leaves. Flass finally leaves, and he's drunk. Gets into his car, and after a few attempts starts to drive away. Gordon starts to follow, obviously, and bides his time to run this fool off the road. Runs him right into a tree.
Oh shit!
Yeah, runs him right into a tree, and he gets out. Flass immediately knows who this guy is, right?
And that's just an 80s sedan right there. Is you could plow someone directly into a tree, and it's really just an inconvenience.
It's a station wagon
for the driver.
Yeah, it looks like a green station wagon, just a big old hunk of metal.
He just gets out. It's like, God damn it!
Yeah, and he's also a pretty stout guy. So this Flass, it's built up very early on that this guy is not somebody to be messed with. He's a big, hulking ex-Green Beret who can really mess people up. Super strong, like picking little tiny perps up and like banging them on trash cans and stuff. This dude's tough.
Got it.
So Gordon, he points his gun and he immediately recognizes him. So Flash drops his. And then this is where we find out that Gordon, most people are used to Commissioner Gordon.
Right.
Older, not really a physical guy. He just is the contact for Batman. He's the one that
he's
lights
like Batman's dad.
Yeah. He's an old guy though. He's, Commissioner Gordon. He's
Which
an old
I don't know
guy.
how Gordon got to be so much older than Bruce over time, when in this I think they're the same age.
They're pretty damn close. Yeah, Bruce is 25. I don't think it shows what his age is, but I mean he's got Barbara's only pregnant with their kids, so 30.
Yeah.
They're in their 30s.
So but cut to later, and Gordon's 80,
right?
And Bruce is
36. still the playboy. Yeah, still playboy age.
But yeah, so sorry.
It's fine. You gotta write these stories so they last. So
that's true. Yeah, it's also about Batman.
Plot devices change as needed.
Right.
But in this, Gordon's still pretty young, not Commissioner. Doesn't have his kid yet. His wife is still pregnant, right? And this is where we find out that young Gordon is a badass. Like there's some things that he says in his head that I don't want to say because it will ruin it. But he taught, for example, just one little tidbit. He tosses Flask the bat that he had in his car so that he has at least a chance.
The baseball bat.
Yeah.
Right. Not like
a baseball bat. Yeah. Gordon has a baseball bat in his car, and he tosses that to Flass to give Flass a chance. And he says, it's been a while since I've taken out a Green Beret.
Oh, snap.
And he just proceeds to just starts this fucker.
That's such a power move, too.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'm here to beat you up. Here's a weapon. to make it even for you.
Hell yeah. And it's awesome. The panels are great, super simple. It's not long and drawn out. It just shows you very clearly that Jim Gordon is not to be fucked with. Not only is he a great cop and a good person, but he is a tough SOB. And he basically does the same thing to Flass that Flass goons did to him. Beat him just enough to send that message, but not send him to the hospital.
It's a nice bit of poetry there.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's fantastic. And it's awesome, and I love it. So it cuts back, and I'll just go over this pretty briefly because it's near the end of the chapter. It cuts back to Bruce, and he's brooding literally in the dark at Wayne Manor.
That is Bruce's way.
Yeah, but he's bleeding.
Nobody broods like Bruce.
Right, exactly.
It's in his name.
Exactly. Brooding Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, it's just Bruce Wayne.
So he's sitting there, bleeding out. Like he's been shot. It definitely hit something not good, and he's bleeding a lot. He crashed his car on the way in, and he's sitting there, and he's having this inner monologue about, talking basically to his father, thanking him for all of the cash. I mean, that's pretty awesome because that's going to help him do what he needs to do, right? But then he also thanks him for Wayne Manor and how it was built over this giant cave that will now become his headquarters.
If he doesn't bleed out.
If he doesn't bleed out, right. And he addresses that actually. He says something like, because he's got a little bell next to him. Remember, Alfred is there. Alfred is already...
Okay, so I was going to ask. Is Alfred around? Like, is he there to help him out?
This is the first time that he's mentioned, actually.
Got it.
It's this little bell, and he talks about all he has to do is ring this bell, and that's something else he thanks his father for. Thank you for Alfred, who is a combat medic, basically.
Right.
And super trusted and all that kind of stuff. But so he's in the dark, being a maniac, talking to his dead father while bleeding out, and he's not ringing the bell.
It's very Hamlet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of, huh?
Very Shakespearean.
Yeah, Shakespearean. But he's saying, all he has to do is ring this bell, but he's not sure what to do because these people weren't scared of him. He needs fear. And he's going over the murder of his parents in his head. And it finally dawns on him that when he was young, a bat scared him. And that was the image that he needed. And he takes it as like a sign from his father. Because in the comic book, it shows a bat like crashing through the window. And I want to say that didn't happen. I feel like, because this is a big ass, nasty looking man bat kind of bat, and it lands on the statue of his father. So I'm thinking that, blood's almost run out.
Yeah.
He's a little delirious.
This might be a slight hallucination.
Right. It's a bit coincidental that a giant evil looking bat would fly through his window when he's dying.
And land on a statue of his father.
Right. But hey, it's the sign that he needed, and he picks the bell up and rings it. So he's finally got the idea for Batman in his head. It took almost dying to find what he needed to find to accomplish his goals. And that's the end of chapter 1, is him ringing a bell so that he doesn't die.
Jeez. All right. Well, cool. We've established Bruce and Gordon and Flass, and it's good. It's good. Like book 1. You gotta get your characters and stuff. So
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
Good.
Typical. First chapter introduces all the main players. I don't know why Selena is really in this book.
Yeah,
she doesn't really add much.
Gloss over her.
She pops up later, and that's all good. But for this,
she's very important to the overall Batman oeuvre. But this particular storyline is
not so much, right? So that's the first chapter. We get to know everybody that's going on in here, and we get to know the city as well from 2 perspectives, but they're similar. Gordon is the cop, believes in law and order, and he wants to fight crime. And then you got the rich boy who was gone and had his parents murdered, and he wants to fight crime, but he wants to really fight crime his way,
like literally.
Yes,
like fight it with his hands.
He wants to punish people, not to go off of the Punisher, but he wants to take care of business his way.
So they have similar goals, right?
Absolutely.
They're going for the same thing. One has the ability to work outside the system, and one is trying to change the system from within inside.
Yeah, because good cop. The system needs to work, or else it's just anarchy.
Right, exactly.
He is very, very aware of how corrupt the system is in Gotham. So we got to chapter 2. Chapter 2 is called War is Declared, and this starts off in April, so some time has passed. Not a lot of time, but enough time for everybody to start getting their shit together. Gordon is much more aware of who's who in the department, and as he's making his way out of the house, we're introduced shortly to the SWAT team of his department. They're not good guys, lo and behold.
What a surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Not good guys. And over the police scanner, Gordon hears about this hostage situation, and the perp is making no sense. And he's got kids. And as soon as he hears that the officer Brandon, I think, yeah, Brandon, he drops his coffee in his car and he starts to hightail it like super fast. He's like almost running people over. He's got to get to the scene ASAP because he knows that this Brandon guy and his team are all loose cannons, and that if they bust that door open, those kids are super toast.
Gotcha.
So it's showing us that at this point, Gordon, he's starting to know all of these people. He's starting to learn who's good, who's not. And he is still steadfast the good guy.
But it also shows that he kind of has the same instincts as Bruce, where when everybody's running away, they run towards.
Yes.
So they have that instinct together, where even though they are doing it different ways, Batman's first instinct is to run into the situation.
Absolutely.
And here's Gordon doing the same thing. Like, it's not his job, it's not his beat, it's not his problem, but he knows that, lives on the line.
Yeah.
So it's important to him.
It's zero hesitation.
Right.
Both
Which
of
is
these men.
exciting in a hero.
Yes, absolutely. Both of these men. That's why in Batman versus Superman, the movie that everybody hates with Ben Affleck,
Right.
I loved how they showed Bruce Wayne running along the street into the smoke, and everybody else was running out of the smoke. And it's just like, that's what he would do. That's what Jim Gordon would do. They have a compulsion, and there's zero hesitation.
Right. And I think that was the only part of that movie that was almost universally appreciated.
Right.
Everything else was like, this is it varied from like, this is okay to this is a hot mess.
Yeah. I liked it, for the record.
I liked it too.
I like Batfleck.
Mostly.
I think
now Batfleck is my favorite version of Batman. So I'll put that out there right away. He is my favorite version. Not to say anything against any of the other versions, but yeah, he's it.
Yeah, he's great.
that kind of parkour fighting, ground grappling fighting style in Batman vs Superman. That was great. Him shooting people like with machine guns without any consequence whatsoever was a little jarring.
That was a bit out of character.
When he hit Superman with a car, that was weird. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Some nitpicks, to be sure.
Yeah, but that's what it is. That's what we love about Bruce Wayne and Batman. Is
Absolutely.
That he is a regular human who's mega rich, but he's a regular human, not from space or anything. But when the shit hits the fan, he's there. He never hesitates. So
Absolutely.
That's what we love about that character.
So Gordon, as I was saying, rushes in to make sure that he gets there before this Brandon and his goon squad can go in there and light everybody up. He's going there to save the kids, right? And it's zero hesitation the whole way, holds his gun up, drops it on the ground, walks in, and just immediately disarms this guy. Nobody dies. And
now, does he physically disarm him, or
knock
him down?
He walks up and he's talking, to the perp, and he's got a kid in his arms, and the guy's not making any sense. And that actually might play into the series later after this, but Gordon just is like, yeah, okay, and he's just responding, and then bam, he just surprises him and disarms him. That's a good job. He did a good job. And that SWAT goon Brandon, he's complaining to the commissioner. It made me look bad. Yeah, this guy, what is
stepping in on my territory?
Yeah, it made me look like a fool. He's not playing this game the right way.
Doesn't mean that you have to prove it.
Exactly. And they so we find out, after all this time, he's still causing problems. He's still ruffling feathers. Jim Gordon is not to be messed with, and he is always going to do the right thing, and he knows who the bad guys are. And but the commissioner at this point is just kind of like, he's good for the press. People feel a little bit better that we got this star cop. That kind of thing.
Thanks, Jim. All right, fuck off.
We get a little montage of Jim training he's shooting at the range, and how he hates his gun. He hates his job, but he keeps practicing. It's what he's got to do. But later it shows he's not sleeping well. He's been in Gotham for a while, and it's starting to really weigh heavy on him. He's got a really tough job. He's got a pregnant wife, and he's freaking out that he's actually bringing another life into this world, especially in Gotham.
Yeah, especially in his position where he's already like a target.
Right. Yeah, he's very aware that because he keeps doing the right thing, that it's not good. He's in a lot of danger.
Under anybody's radar.
No,
he is right out front.
Mm-hmm. And he says he's bringing a child into this life in a city without hope, and it's really cool because the very next panel it's him worrying and saying that there's no hope. And the very next panel is a shot of Batman. You can see his cape, his familiar pattern of his cape, running across the rooftops, and it's like,
nice.
There's hope. He's a maniac in a bat costume, and there's your hope.
Wow.
So it's a really cool panel. It would make a really cool poster on my wall. I want this panel up on my wall because it's super simple. The art is super simple. It's just shapes, and it's just really cool. It's very atmospheric.
Yeah, I find, especially with the Comixology copies of the comics I get, certain panels do find their way onto my desktop backgrounds.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I need this all the time.
Right.
Let's put this here.
When you find those images that really speak to you, you just want to.
Yes,
absolutely. Okay, so we see Batman. He is finally in his suit. It's the big reveal, and there's some burglars. This is low level crime at first. He is busting up a group of people that are just stealing TVs and whatnot.
So he learned his lesson from last time. Like, don't get shot.
You don't get
pick
shot.
Your battles.
And pick your battles. But he's still making mistakes. He might be in the bat suit now, but his plans aren't going exactly as
They still aren't great.
They're not great. He jumps down onto this they're like 20 stories up, and this fool falls over, and he has to grab him. So there's 3 people that he's fighting. One he has to hold by the ankle as he's dangling 20 stories up, and these other 2 fools to start beating the crap out of him while he's holding on to Fool's
holding
ankle.
on to their friend.
Yeah,
right. Trying not to get his 3rd homicide.
Yeah,
on his second night out.
Exactly. And he's just trying to save their buddy that accidentally fell over, and he's getting kicked in the face, and he even gets cracked on the back of the head with a TV. He's barely conscious, and finally wrestles these people to the ground and gets the guy up, right? So it didn't go well again, but it went better. He didn't get shot. Yes. He didn't get stabbed. He got bashed with the TV.
Incremental improvement is key.
It's definite improvement. So we see Batman, he's finally learning to be Batman. He's still making mistakes, but he's getting better. And then we cut a little bit ahead in the future. It's now May 15th in the book, right? So a little bit more time has passed.
So we've made another small jump.
Little small jump. Yeah, there's nothing jumps backwards in this series. It's only forwards. It's like I said, it's the first year. So it's May 15th now in the story, and Batman has been spotted more recently. So some people think he's a monster. Other people think he's just a guy, but he's definitely a vigilante. That's one thing Gordon knows, and he automatically doesn't like him because this is Jim Gordon, the ultimate, good cop. And vigilantes.
Yeah, I was curious how he would feel about that because it's it's somebody breaking the rules, but like the people who are enforcing the rules right now are not to be trusted. So like, where do you fall on that line?
Right, and it's kind of funny because there's some inner monologue going on from Jim Gordon about it because he doesn't like the vigilante part, but over here in this panel we see Flash. He's all roughed up, he's all messed up, and this is way after Gordon did the roughing up, right?
Oh, okay, so this is a new beating.
This is a new beating. He's got like a broken arm, and he's got a neck brace on, and he's telling his story because he had a run-in with the bat, right?
Oh.
And all of the cops are laughing at him, thinking it's a big joke. and Gordon's just eating it up, right? He just loves that this Flash guy is getting his ass kicked and is being embarrassed in front of all these guys.
How you make a friend with Gordon.
So that's what we see, right? We see that now that Batman is starting to make a name for himself, and Gordon automatically doesn't like it. And we find out, that he's moving his way up. This bat creature, this Batman, whatever you want to call him, he started with low crime stuff, but now he's moving up the food chain. And, he's making progress where the cops haven't been able to make progress, but Gordon knows, hey, that's because all the cops are crooked. The commissioner's crooked. So you can tell with some of the things that he says, his inner monologue, it's like he kind of likes this. He's getting some pleasure out of the fact that these crooked cops are getting some comeuppance, right?
Jim is eating this
Is
up.
eating it up, right? And it just goes over the fact that, Flash thinks that this guy is a monster. And I saw it with my own eyes. Bullets went right through him, and he...
So like a literal monster. Like
He thinks he's like a literal monster. Because they shot and bullets went right through him. It was really just his cape.
The cape, yeah.
Yeah, and he was throwing these dart things that knocked us all out. They're batterings that were just...
As monsters do.
Right, of course, right?
That one monster who throws out knockout darts. That familiar. It's from German folklore.
Yeah. What?
Das Niedler.
Exactly. We all know it's just batterings knocking fools out. But
Right,
Flash is convinced that it's...
Sure, it would be scary. Like someone's coming at you in the dark with it's all like mouth shaped and you're shooting at it and doesn't help.
Yeah, and it's proof that, Bruce Wayne's blood, loss delirium of the bat was true. It's scary.
Oh, right. Yeah, that it does carry water.
Yeah, it has the effect that he was looking for. He wants people to freeze in terror so that he can then take care of them while they're surprised.
What the fuck is that?
Exactly.
just enough time to give you the jump.
So at this point, the commissioner Loeb, who was very, very corrupt, he's not super concerned with his vigilante at this point. It doesn't really go over that, but you can tell that it's like, whatever. There's a few things that he says about this vigilante, and he's just like, whatever, just take care of it. But then we see Batman outside of this mansion or country club, probably a country club of sorts. He's setting up for something. He's getting some things in place to surprise these people. And as you read these panels, you'll find out that there's a lot of bad folks here. The commissioner himself is terrible, but we read the name Falcone.
Ooh, I know that name,
right? And so there's a lot of bad folks here, and they're all rich. They're all the people in power.
Sure.
And we all know, that's
that is absolutely true.
That
100% of the time. Right. Yeah.
That is exactly how things go. So he bides his time, he's listening, he's setting up his little trap, and he once he springs it, he blows a hole in the damn wall, and there's smoke everywhere, smoke grenades, and everybody's freaking out. And
what they don't know is that Batman just peed a little.
Exactly. Maybe that was the moment.
It was. That's the moment. That's when he blows through and he says something about like, you've all eaten well.
Yes.
Or whatever. There's like a speech. That's the moment.
Is it?
So when he blows that wall,
that is so awesome.
And he peed a little, and then he made that speech.
That is so great. Yeah, because that's exactly how it goes. It shows him chucking the explode or the grenade, the smoke grenade. Then he clips the power, and then he tosses his grenade to breach the wall, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, you have eaten well."
Now imagine the level of confidence it takes to say that line in your scariest voice,
right?
Having just peed your pants.
Stay scary. Stay scary.
Like, shit, what was that? Okay, stay in the moment. Stay in the moment.
Clench.
You've all eaten well.
Yes, the energy will. Yes, the nervous energy will help this.
Just go with it, Bruce. Go.
And the whole room is actually lit. Since he cut the power, it's all only lit by this little like dessert thing. You know how you can light things on fire like flambés or whatever.
Yes.
It's this little dish that's the only source of light, and he basically informs them that their time is coming to an end. And he snuffs the flame, the only light source in the room. It's very cool. It's very dramatic.
Oh, absolutely. You couldn't have hoped for a better moment as Bruce.
Exactly.
You like cut the power and you see one candle and you're like, oh shit, yeah.
So he's
awesome.
He's really learning how to use that fear at this point.
Right. A little bit of the theatrics.
Yes.
You have to stay memorable.
Yes, absolutely. And you have to prove that you're a threat to these kind of people. And so, like I had mentioned, the commissioner wasn't really all that concerned with this vigilante bat thing up until this point. But then he literally shows up and blows a hole in his fucking wall. You know, and so now he's all over Jim Gordon's ass. He's like, get this guy off the damn streets. I want it done yesterday. It's your damn job, you know, blah, blah, blah. So a couple of montages later, it shows how Jim and the department are, you know, using a lot of resources to set up stings and traps for the bat, and they can't catch him. So he's actually still working his way through the upper echelon of the crime in the city at this point. It shows a scene where Batman is talking with Harvey Dent, but he's hiding because he doesn't want Gordon to see him. So we get a little bit of sneak peek into their relationship there. A lot of people may not know, but Harvey Dent was a big fan of Batman before he turned into Two-Face. Spoiler alert. So we see a little bit of that. And then it shows Jim getting a little too cozy with his partner, Sarah Eason maybe, and they're working together on this, and she's actually the one that throws out the idea that, well, you know, maybe it's this rich kid. His parents were murdered here. He was gone for a long time. Maybe it's Bruce Wayne. Who else can afford all of these toys? Because
maybe it's the most obvious suspect. Has anyone ever thought of that?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, duh. You can't have these kind of toys.
We can see half of his face. Anybody have a picture of Bruce Wayne handy?
Well, now we're getting into the whole curly hair and glasses trope here, you know. But
yeah, no, that's true. A superhero's secret identity has plot armor.
Of course,
you can't break through it. So
no. They. You know, it's kind of to the credit to Frank Miller. He actually she says it. Well, what about Bruce Wayne? He's rich. Has trauma. He has all the reason in the world to do this, and he
has the motivation and means to pull something like this off.
And generally, in other stories, we've seen people just be like, "No," and Jim is like, "Oh, shit."
It's like,
good idea.
That makes a ton of sense, actually.
And the only reason why Jim Gordon was actually talking to Harvey in his office was because he was thinking, well, maybe it's this guy. You know, this Harvey Dent, he's a hot shot new prosecutor. Right. Yeah. And like in his office, he's got weights and he's in good shape. And so that was his first idea. Maybe it's this guy. He takes his passion for crime a little too far kind of idea.
Showing him doing some actual detective work.
Right. Yeah. He's following leads and all that kind of stuff, trying to find out who the hell this guy is. And then that's when Essen drops the bomb. Maybe it's Bruce Wayne. But Bruce Wayne is notoriously hard to get in contact with, you know. Every single time that they would call, that comes up a little bit later.
He's busy. Batman.
Yeah. And also being injured in other countries that just happen to line up with, you know, where Batman may have been injured. So we cut to them in the car, and he's distracted a little bit by that idea, and he's almost run off the road by a truck. And he can't tell if the driver's hurt, sick, crazy, or what. And he just starts going after it. And Batman sees from the rooftops what's happening. He happens to be near. Gordon is chasing the truck, and he sees that he's about to run over like a homeless woman. And he yells, you know, take the wheel, and he's going to jump. Look, again, no hesitation, zero hesitation. He's going to jump into this freaking moving van and try and stop.
Pull some Starsky and Hutch shit.
and Batman, he comes, you know, to save the day. Everybody can tell. And Jim is saying in his head, you know, he's thinking it's his inner monologue saying how he's not going to make it. He ran out of time. He screwed up. It's no good. And then Batman, you know, saves the day. He swings down.
Swoops in.
Yep, swoops in and grabs the lady, knocks her out of the way. And so Jim, you know, Gordon sees this. Says, okay, he's not just a vigilante. He's a protector.
He's not like some just mob enforcer, you know, of some other crime family just coming into town and be like, well, you know, we hired this goon to scare these other criminals, you know, or whatever. Like it's Jim's first, you know, seeing Batman for what he is.
It's a glimpse.
For the first time.
Yeah,
right.
It's a glimpse as to what Batman, or this Bat guy is, right?
And it's also a glimpse for Bruce that Gordon is not that much different from me. Like, he was ready to throw himself out of a car to save somebody he didn't know.
Very true. Yep, very true. It's enlightening on all parties, right?
Right, and then they're kind of kindred spirits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, okay, we get each other.
So Jim Gordon comes too, right? and he's disarming his partner, and he's like, stop, or he can't work his arm. He's blacking out, right? He fell off the truck. It was a whole thing.
Okay.
And by the time he comes to, Batman is being chased by cops, and they fire again immediately. Like, there's this zero hesitation, and he's like, hey, he just saved a lady.
Right.
Don't fire without me telling you to. And all these, just boys in blue are just blah, 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 blah. And Bruce
I swear
is
it's not a Dracula. Stop
right?
shooting.
It is not a monster, you idiots.
Chummies.
So he actually he catches a bullet in the leg, and so he's fleeing for his life, and he's going down this alley. I don't want to get too detailed about this part because it's very cool. There's a lot of good art. There's a lot of good panels. This is right here at the end of this chapter, though, and Gordon is just like, stop freaking shooting. Stop it. And so they finally stop. They ease up. Batman goes into the building, but little does he know that the commissioner caught wind of all this, and he doesn't want to catch this guy. He wants to just kill this guy. And he has his lovely SWAT goon Brandon from earlier in the story fly in on a helicopter and just drop explosive charges on the top of this building.
Dun, dun, dun.
Zero care about who might be in or around the building.
No, we're just gonna raise this entire thing.
Just boom, right? And it shows Batman. He gets blown up. His cape kind of gets in the way, and the top of the building is just toast, right? And that's how that chapter ends. That's the second chapter.
All right, so then book 3.
Yep, we're up to chapter 3, which is called Black Dawn, and there's each chapter has a little quote in the beginning of it. I haven't said the other two, but this third one is very cool. It says they've got him cornered, they've got him outnumbered, they've got him trapped, and then a couple spaces down it says they're in trouble. And I love that because it's like, oh yeah, he's in this building that was just on fire or still is on fire. There's hundreds of cops outside, and they got him cornered, outnumbered, and trapped. But they're the ones that are screwed,
Who are in trouble.
and I love that. It
That
actually
is great.
It's awesome, and it reminds me of like The Watchmen when Rorschach is in prison, and he's like, what does he say? You think you're all I'm stuck
you think
in
I'm
here.
trapped in here
Yes.
with you, but you're all trapped. What you don't know is you're all trapped in here with me.
With me. Yeah, I love that. Especially coming out of that little tiny actor, Jackie Earle
little
Haley.
tiny crazy person.
Yeah. Little rabid chihuahua.
Yeah. He was not screwing around.
No, not at all. It starts out with that awesome quote, and it kind of sets the tone for what you're about to see. And there's a lot of really awesome panels in this section. I'm not going to go over it in great detail because it's something that you need to read for yourself.
Got it. But does this chapter kind of focus around that event, like getting out of the warehouse?
Yeah, there is a jump forward later in this chapter. But basically, it shows him trapped, and he's noticing all of the homeless that are in here that are dying, and he can't save almost any of these people. Like, things are collapsing around him. Wow. It's awful, right? Yeah. He loses his utility belt because some of his thermite ignites, so he has to toss that. Oof. So he's at a serious disadvantage, not only in numbers, but he lost a lot of his toys that he uses to fight all these things. It goes on to mention Selena again. Selena and that Holly girl from the beginning of the book. Again, kind of a throwaway. It must be more relevant later in the series. I don't know. But yeah, it basically is this first part of this chapter is the 18 SWAT members go in and he just dismantles them, right? He's too smart. He's been doing this for about 6 months already. I think that's what it's about. Yeah, it's June 7th when this happens.
And it's all hand-to-hand combat stuff.
All hand-to-hand.
He doesn't do gun range training or anything long distance. He is a grappler, wrestler, fighter,
using the shadows, sneaking up on you, setting traps. Absolutely.
And even though he's cornered and at a disadvantage, he's still like, this is exactly what he's been preparing for. So he's in that mindset of like, okay, well, plan A and B are gone, but C is still just hitting everybody really hard in the face with my hands, and that usually works.
It usually works.
Yeah,
exactly.
Tried and true. Here we go.
And it's already established too. Like, when you read the book for yourself, you'll see that it shows him he's human, but Bruce Wayne's a monster of a dude. He's
Peak
strong,
human.
Right.
Like this is absolutely 100% like a human running at 100%. At all systems go, the smartest, the most physically adept, the fastest, but still human, but still human. Perfect human.
Yeah, perfect specimen. And he's injured. He's been shot once in the leg already, which he later says was his good leg.
Yeah, because he was shot earlier this year. Remember this only been
Well, he was shot earlier this year, which would take forever to heal, and then he was shot in the leg just as he was going into this building. So there's 18 SWAT members going into this building that's been blown up almost to smithereens, and he's still taking out all these guys. It's fucking Batman, right? That's the whole point of this, is to show you. Yes, it's Batman. And Batman doesn't lose to these fucking pugs, right? Nope. So it shows a little, thing, they're getting dismantled, no problem. And one of the cops outside's like, hey, Brandon needs help. And Gordon's like, oh, yeah, it breaks my heart. I have orders, I can't go in. So fucking what, right? And he's still got even though he doesn't have his tools, he's still got a couple of tricks up his sleeve. A few little things. He's got a blow dart gun, 3 shots, but 18 cops, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of inner monologue on his part that's really cool. Kind of goes into the way he thinks about a situation, how he's going to take
the
people
tactical
out.
Side of Batman.
It's very cool. It's really neat. There's this cat that's running around in a lot of these scenes, and he takes note of the cat. And it comes into play a little bit later when the cat keeps meowing and being loud and scaring cops, and Batman's just ignoring it. But then one of these stupid cops tries to actually kill the cat. This damn cat, keeps scaring me. And Batman grabs the cat and tosses the cat out the window, getting shot again in the arm to save a cat. And these cops are just firing their weapons blindly, and they're hitting their own cops outside the building. and so it's this chaos, this absolute chaos. He's got these guys so scared and so worked up, that they just can't think anymore. And he's just, shadow to shadow, fucking these dudes
right.
up,
And they weren't the pinnacle of trained before this.
No.
So this
not at all.
is just adding on.
Yeah. and it also shows a little bit of his sadistic side. He spots the cop that shot at the cat, and he just roughs this dude up, just messes him up. And it's like 5 broken bones and a punctured lung or something. It kind of tells it at the end. He just messed this guy up, right?
Batman's trying to get that PETA sponsorship.
Yeah, it punches him through a goddamn wall. Just dismantles these fools. I keep using that word a lot, but that's what he does. This team that he just dismantles one by one, saving some of his anger for one in particular who tried to kill the damn cat. But Gordon is outside and he sees all this. He's watching as this happens. Mm-hmm. And again, he's not super heartbroken about this. Now we see that Batman still had a trick up his sleeve, and there's a little bit of inner dialogue about how long it took to find the right frequency for the bats in his cave, what would call them. And it shows this neat little thing. I don't know why it's under his foot. You could step on the damn thing and set it off. But it's on the bottom of his boot. I thought that was really silly, but it's on the bottom of his boot, and he clicks it, and eventually all these bats show up. Right?
Maybe just of all the tools he had, he had to put a switch in his boot. And he's like, well, okay, if I accidentally step on this, I don't want a batarang shooting up into my groin, and I don't want any flamethrowers or anything. So, okay, worst case scenario, a bunch of bats show up. All right, that I can live with. That if I accidentally trigger this, it's going to be weirdly dramatic and mildly inconvenient for a little bit.
Right. And just super easy to get away, because everybody sees
bats
a
are
swarm
scary.
of bats. Yeah.
I have a few here, and when I'm out on the deck in the evening, the first time I see one on the horizon, it's time to go inside.
Yep. No rabies for me, thank you very much.
No.
So his summoned army of bats finally arrive, and there's a lot of people out watching. There's all of the cops that are still outside, of course. There's a lot of people, and they've already he started to build up this. The Batman is like a local hero at this point. The cops hate him, the people love him. That kind of situation. But then all these damn bats show up, and it's just chaos. And obviously he used that as his ticket to get the hell out of there, right?
Everyone's cars are now covered in bat shit. Like
and
nobody's
bites,
happy.
you know, everybody's getting bit.
Oh,
Yeah, people are getting bit because there's this little like aftermath montage, some panels that show, you know, this cop had this many injuries and people getting rabies shots.
I know. I was gonna say, like, the local hospital's like, wait, I'm sorry, how many bat bites?
Right, exactly. And it's awesome, you know. And
I guess we could just put some of this anti-rabies stuff in a hose and just have you all stand in a group. And it's like, keep your mouths open. Okay, ready?
Yeah, ready. Yeah, there's actually jokes about how it's all in their asses and nobody can sit down for a long time. It's pretty fun getting the vaccine or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but it actually shows, you know, that the people in the building died, right? It wasn't just that they were trying to kill Batman, is that there's homeless that died. So, you know, Batman sees it as another failure. You know, he couldn't save these people.
And it's more kind of bodies on his dime, you know, like if he hadn't have gone into, like if he hadn't have been out and he hadn't have gotten injured and he hadn't have run into that building, then the building wouldn't have been firebombed and all those people would have been alive. So really it's still like his screw ups are still having major ramifications.
Yes.
That if he wants to be doing this kind of thing, it's not just his ass on the line. Like, he's got a body count now.
Yep, he sure does.
So do you cut your losses and quit? Or do you take this as like, well, man, let's not let these people go in vain. Like, I've learned a lot. Like, let's keep going.
And that's something that Frank Miller highlights in Bruce Wayne's inner thoughts, is how the methods aren't good yet. He needs methods to do this, to save people, because that's the whole point. And
right,
you
beat up a couple cops and like a dozen homeless people got killed. Like, that's not really like a good ratio.
Exactly. And Gordon's not happy about it either. Like he being still that cop that's, you know, law and order, and that this Batman is a vigilante. He still doesn't like it, you know. He may have seen more of who he really is, you know, but he still is.
It's still costing the city a ton.
Yeah,
I mean, like, not monetarily.
Lives.
I mean, like literally, it's costing the city its people that you know, Gordon's sworn to protect. Like, so you gotta come to terms with that. Like, well, this guy and I are on the same side, but he's doing it in a way that's just wildly irresponsible.
At this point, absolutely, you know, and he's very upset about it. He doesn't like the fact that innocent people died in that fire.
Right.
It's hinted at that, you know, those dirty cops getting messed up. That was kind of a plus.
Sure.
And then it goes on to, this is a couple days later, you know, he's talking again with that partner, Sarah Essen, that he's getting a little too comfy with, right? They're talking about Bruce Wayne still being a suspect. But he has too many alibis, right? Bruce Wayne is just, he's always somewhere else, apparently. So the chapter ends with heavy-hearted Jim Gordon. You know, he's fighting with Barbara a lot. You know, their marriage is very strained because of the hours that he's working. Gordon has a super hard job, and so he's, you know, he's making some bad decisions with his partner. They have a moment of weakness together in the rain, and you have a little kissy kiss when he should have been home with his wife. Yeah. In the middle of all this, it shows Bruce Wayne skiing, which is funny. He had to have an alibi, so he was out of the country. And then we get to see Selena Kyle again, just briefly. She's now roughing up pimps. Like in beforehand, she was one of them. You know, she was a hooker in this story, and then you know, at this point, it shows that she's done with that crap and she's dragging that Holly girl away.
So was she influenced by Batman then?
It's very possible. That could be the angle that they go for, is that, you know, she's seeing this Batman fight, and so she decides to fight too, because she's no slouch. She can kick some ass.
And also showing that as much of a menace as Batman is being, he's also influencing people to start doing the right thing, but in extreme cases, you know. So Selena Kyle wasn't going to be able to become a cop, but she can rough up, you know, a pimp, you know, like, and that be completely off the radar. So yeah, it's Batman's at this crux point where he is hurting the city and helping the city in kind of equal measures.
Right.
And it's like, you have to start getting better at this.
Right. And that's exactly what's going on in Bruce's head, is that it's still not good enough.
Right.
We see Catwoman become Catwoman very briefly, and
cool.
this is where she starts to become the cat burglar, kind of
Is she in the black suit or the purple suit?
in this book, it's kind of a gray suit. I mean, they might be going for purple, but the colors in this are very mute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's not a lot of brightness. So, it shows, and she's more of the Robin Hood type. She's robbing these people that deserve to be robbed, the awful people of the city kind of deal. Again, it's very, very minimal. She's just there for a little bit to kind of set her up. But it shows Gordon sitting on his bed, and he's just miserable. It even shows that he needs to stop thinking about Sarah, his partner, the way he was. It's not okay. He needs to get away from that, and he needs to stop thinking good thoughts about this Batman, because he's a criminal. You can't get hopeful in this guy. What am I thinking, Jim? You're a cop and he's a vigilante. It's not.
So he's having a physical affair on his wife and an emotional affair on his job.
His morals, right? Yep.
Yeah.
So, and that's the end of chapter 3. It's a fairly simple chapter. It shows how far Bruce Wayne has come as Batman.
It's a lot of development, especially with Gordon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really shows that he's having a rough time,
and that
city
he's not
is eating at him.
He's not perfect. He's not your Superman character. He's just like a regular guy in a really crappy situation. He's trying to make the best of, and people make mistakes.
Right. So
rounding home plate and take this in for a finish.
You got it. So this is chapter 4, final chapter of Batman Year 1, and it's a fairly straightforward chapter 2. A lot happens, but it's kind of, what you would think. It's called Friend in Need.
Okay.
And this is, when does this one pick up at? If I look at my comic book here. Mm-hmm. So every chapter starts with a date.
Right.
This is September 2nd.
It's kind of going seasonally, right? Okay, so we're in September.
So this is September. The last we saw of them, it was in June. And unfortunately, Jim wasn't able to stop the affair. He basically falls in love with his partner, Sarah Eason, and he knows it's not good. He tries to break it off with her multiple times, and he just can't get away from her, right? Barbara's pregnant. Like, she's super pregnant at this point.
Yikes.
She's about to give birth to their kid, and he's having this relationship.
Yeah.
But it goes into how, she's putting in for a transfer. They can't keep doing this. They both know that it's wrong.
His partner, right, is putting in for a transfer?
Yes, his partner. Yep, Sarah Eason. So she's bouncing, right? Okay. And he's trying to put this behind him. Mm-hmm. But Jim's a good man, and he knows that he's made terrible mistakes in terms of his relationship with his wife, right? Mm-hmm. And later in this chapter, they butt him in the ass a little bit.
Really?
Yep. Meanwhile, Batman is making sure certain big arrests stick, right? So Gordon is still he has not gotten the hint that he needs to fall in line with everybody else. He's still getting in and under the skin of all these rich and powerful bad guys. And it's a constant thorn in their side.
Sure.
Constantly, right? Yes. But, the commissioner, he's, we gotta just wait, because he's such a popular guy in the city now. This is a star cop at this point. He's making all of these arrests that nobody's been able to fix for a long time. And here this Gordon guy is working his ass off and getting shit done. So it's hard. It's hard for the bad guys to kill off something like that's too public.
Right.
So Batman, in the background, he's decided he needs a friend. Mm. And so he's helping Jim without Jim knowing it. To make sure that these people he's arresting, because they'll weasel their way out of shit. They have corrupt lawyers that have friends in the right places that get them out of shit, and he's putting the fear of the bat into them to make sure they stay in town and testify.
Gotcha.
And once again, we see Gordon getting lectured about loyalty by Commissioner Loeb. Gordon's just too much damn trouble, and this is where it starts to get real. So, no longer pussyfooting around, the commissioner slaps down some pictures of Jim Gordon having an affair with his partner.
Oh, snap.
Basically threatening, hey, you need to get in line or else we're going to tell your wife you've been cheating on her.
No.
Yeah. And so there's no more niceties about this. It's we are terrible people and you are too good of a guy. So you need to stop.
We found the one chink in your armor.
Yes.
And we're going to jujitsu the hell out of it.
We're going to exploit it.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, and obviously Jim is super shocked. You know, there's a really funny panel of him taking his glasses off. He's like, got this, oh fuck look on his face.
Oh.
So that's the threat. That's what the commissioner has decided to do, you know, because Flass has been jawing his ear off trying to just let him kill him. Can't do that. Can't do that. So this is what they're going
Come
with.
on,
They're
boss,
going,
please.
exactly. Just a goon wanting to, you know, let me clamp him.
Let me just commit a little murder. Just a little itty bitty tiny bit of
Just
murder.
a little one.
It'll be fun.
So
we'll go for In and Out afterwards.
And Jim's scared. You know, that's not good. And it's basically, you know, his mistakes coming back to bite him. And so he's worried. It's not a good situation, but he's still doing his job. He, for some reason, I don't know why, but he finally gets a meeting with Bruce Wayne because he's been a number one suspect, you know, for a long time. And he finally gets a chance to talk with Bruce Wayne. And he arrives at Wayne Manor with his wife. I don't know why his wife would be there with him.
Right. I mean, the only thing I can think of is like Bruce Wayne is kind of a celebrity. So it'd be like,
I guess,
but it does seem like if he's there on official police business, that does seem inappropriate.
It does, right? And it doesn't say, unless I missed something, there's no reason for her to be there. Okay. Like,
did he invite them over? Like as a couple?
No. It's just, I don't,
right.
Where's, you know, it's just, hey, he's finally available. He's not hurt. He's in town. He's just got a hangover. Come on over.
You have the right to remain silent. By the way, this is my wife, Barbara.
Right. It's very strange. I don't know why she's there, but she's there. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
She's there, and Bruce Wayne starts to do his whole billionaire playboy. He's got this girl that snuggled up on him. He doesn't know her name. Doesn't speak a language, so he can't even ask her what it is. You know, he's drinking wine at 11 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, super early. You know, so
it's a sneak peek into the COVID world.
Right. Jim doesn't really buy it. You know, they get in the car and he's talking to his wife about secrets. You know, he doesn't really buy this. And everybody has secrets. Yeah, and she calls him a pig. Oh, he's a pig, you know. Yeah. And he pulls over and says, you know what? We have something to talk about. So in Bruce Wayne's driveway, he sits for 10 minutes while Bruce watches from the window, waiting for him to leave. He finally drives off, but Jim finally tells his wife the truth, right? Which
you just like had some house guests over and they're leaving your house and you're doing that thing where you're like watching them, you know, through your kitchen window for them to leave, like safely. And then they start talking and then the husband reveals to the wife he's been having an affair and they're just going to be parked yelling at each other in your driveway.
Right. How awkward.
You're like, could you have not waited till you got literally anywhere else to do this? Like I have to get the mail now and it's super awkward because I have to pass you and,
get off my property.
Right? Like I know you're police and everything, but I feel like I have to call the police. I don't know.
His driveway is a bajillion miles long, so you know he's far enough away. They can't.
You could probably just leave on a helicopter.
Right exactly. So yeah, he's watching them sit there for 10 minutes. They finally drive away.
Wow.
And Bruce is like, he asked Alfred how did he do? Did he like the act? You know?
Oh, nice.
And it's revealed that the champagne was just soda water. You know, he wasn't really drunk. So it just shows you that, you know, Alfred's in on it. Everybody
is the girl in on it? Like, who is she?
Probably not. She just kind of disappears. Yeah, she just disappears. No mention of who she really was.
She probably just lives there at the mansion. And the fact that she doesn't speak English is probably critical. Like, she just has a room in the mansion. It's like somebody shows up. He's like Bruce Wayne's quick beard. Like just to prove he's got a case of the not gays. Like, oh, quick, come here. Let's sit on the couch. Well, hello.
Well, hello there.
Welcome to Wayne Manor.
So that's how that goes down. He's putting on the act
Yikes.
that everybody's familiar with, right?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So we cut again. It's now October, and he's already had the conversation, right, with his wife that he was cheating, and now they don't have any ammo against Gordon. So the commissioner lost his one
Right.
card to play, and it's
Right.
actually there's a panel where it says, yes, sir, I know about Sergeant Eason. Please don't bother me again, right? And it shows Gordon in the background. So that little play it didn't work because he just
Right.
told the truth, and so there it goes.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard, but it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And it helped him not become corrupted by the same system he's fighting against. That's what they
Exactly.
assumed. They assumed that
He didn't give them the satisfaction by, you know what, fine,
Right.
I'll just bite the bullet. Yep.
and they assumed that he was weak and that he would do anything he could to protect his own ass. But Gordon just turned around and was like, yeah, I fucked up. I will take responsibility. And now I can go back to work without you thinking you have something over me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Bold,
Which is
bold move
great.
on Gordon's part. Yes.
He does the right thing by coming clean, right?
Yep.
And by doing the right thing yet again is another thorn in the side of the people trying to control him.
Yeah.
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 Cut to a little bit ahead of time, October 12th, his baby's born, right? So that's
right.
some good news. It's a baby boy, and Barbara's just fine. We see a little bit more of Selena, but I'm not going to really get into that. It's not really important. I mean, it's a little bit important, I guess,
Right,
but
right.
again, for later down the road.
Yeah, it's a different story.
It's a different thing. She's out cat burglaring things and runs into Batman. And
Perfect.
she watches him very quickly take out, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys? And she's just like, has this look on her face like, holy crap.
Is it like a respect thing, like nice? Or is it like, oh shit, that guy's dangerous?
It's kind of, I think it's the way it's drawn.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of look at it like there's some worry in those eyes.
Gotcha.
Like, I could not do that. Like, what he just did, I could not do that. Like, she
Right,
was in
yeah.
trouble, and then he just took them all out, and it was kind of like a holy crap kind of look.
What she doesn't know is it says he's had substantial nerve damage from the amount of times he's been shot. He just doesn't feel pain anymore.
Yeah, he just doesn't feel it. So whatever.
He's got a nail sticking out the bottom of his foot. It's like 2 of his fingers are broken. He has no idea.
We see her very surprised, but then we also see her kind of smirk, like
Oh, okay. So she
like
kind of
she-
likes it.
yeah, she kind of
So
looks
that's scary,
down,
but it's cool.
Yeah, and so that's the last we see of her, I believe, in this book, if I remember correctly. But we're jumping pretty quickly ahead, date wise, because now it's November 3rd. Like, it's starting to move a little bit fast towards the end of the year. Okay, Gordon's still doing his thing, still being a thorn in the side. We see Bruce Wayne doing one arm push-ups, listening to the news. And it's middle of the night. Gordon gets a call. It's his time to turn to feed the baby and all that kind of typical new parent things. But the phone rings and he's got to go. So, but it's all a setup. See, so he's tricked into leaving the house, and as he's driving away, he sees a motorcycle speeding towards him, and he has to move out of the way because not known to him is that Bruce gets tipped off to what's going on. And Gordon, is almost ran off the road by this guy on a motorcycle that disappears into his building's car lot, the parking garage.
Yeah.
And he thinks, you know what? This isn't right. I don't know that bike. I don't know that guy. And he's going far too fast into my apartment building. So he hightails it back, just, flips around,
Good instinct.
starts rushing back to his garage. And he doesn't see the guy on the bike, but he immediately sees a guy sitting in the car with his baby, and he's got a knife up to him.
What?
Yeah. So I don't really get the timing of these panels because that would take some time.
Oh.
He doesn't live on the ground level. So I'm
right. Yeah.
I'm guessing he was driving away from his house for 10 minutes, and then it took another 10 minutes to get back.
Or there was another person
Yeah.
who was like in the hallway that
yeah,
didn't
maybe
see.
waiting. There you go. That's a good way to
Yeah.
explain
And
it.
then just immediately pop in, grab the baby, then you're in the car by the time he gets back.
Yeah, because it seemed to happen really fast. Like, I left
Yeah.
and now I'm back, and then
Right.
bam, it's got his kids. So, but regardless,
Yeah.
Jim's baby has his mouth covered by this goon sitting in the car. And he says, "Drop the gun, Lieutenant. Go to the office and wait for our call." And then there's 2 other goons that have Barbara. He's too smart. He knows exactly what's going on. If he loses sight of them, they're dead meat, right? So he just, again, zero hesitation, immediately acts. Shoots one dude in the face. Barbara drops down because she's married to a cop, so she probably has some kind of knowledge of what to do.
They've probably talked this out once
Absolutely.
before. Okay.
Absolutely.
Just in case.
So he shoots dude in the face. Barbara drops to the ground, and Jim takes one to the shoulder, which kind of puts his aim off and he misses the guy.
Yeah.
He jumps in the car and the car takes off, right? But just as the car was taking off, so was the guy on the motorcycle. He finally saw him, spun around and shoots the guy off of the motorcycle, snags the motorcycle, and takes off after the car. All happens very quickly.
That's some John Woo shit right there.
Exactly.
Gordon with a flying jump kick takes the biker off the motorcycle.
So yeah, I mean it's super fast. Like these panels, the pacing is pretty funny. It all happens so fast.
Very fast, yeah.
This is literally the last few pages of the book. So Jim, he knows that his wife is going to get killed and his baby's going to get killed if he doesn't do something. So he jumps into action, zero hesitation, grabs this bike and starts chasing after this dude, right? Well, Barbara stands up. She's got a gun. There's a dude dead on the ground, so there's obviously a gun. She picks it up and she says, don't, I'll kill you. And Bruce takes his helmet off. He's kind of in the shadows, so she can't really see him. But he takes his helmet off. He says, I won't let your baby die, I promise. Right? Trust me. But then he jumps on a bicycle. And starts taking off after somebody in a car and a motorcycle.
And Barbara didn't shoot him just out of pity. She was like, oh my God. Like, he's obviously not a problem.
It's like, okay, I guess I'll trust you, even though my husband has shot you, and he's usually a pretty good judge of character.
I'll take care of this, ma'am. Ring, ring.
Right. So he gets on a bike that's obviously meant to catch up to a guy on a motorcycle in a car, right. But we'll just ignore that.
He's
fact.
Batman. We're just gonna go with that.
He's got bat legs that can pedal really fast. I don't know. So Gordon's chasing this car and he shoots the tire out, and they're over this bridge, right? The car crashes into the bridge. Gordon rushes up. The driver's fucking knocked out, but the dude in the back who has his baby still has his baby. Knocks Gordon over, and tussling ensues. Not a lot of details I don't want to give. And just as the baby is going over, Bruce Wayne he's like rode the bike up, and he leaps off the bike and does like a dive over the railing and catches the baby before he hits the ground. Wow. Luckily for everybody involved here, because Gordon is fighting with the goon who had the baby in the first place, right? They all fall over, and luckily it's like low tide or some shit because they just fall into really deep mud.
Okay.
And then out of nowhere, Barbara runs up. Like, how far did they get? It must have just been down the street or something, like this bridge was like a block away.
And Gordon's wife, Usain Bolt, shows up on foot.
Exactly. Yeah, it's super fun. I mean, the way the panels are drawn, it makes it seem like it's super far, some bridge on the edge of the city.
Because Bruce got up to him on a bicycle and she got up to him on foot. It had to have been like a block away.
Yeah, it must have just been right around the damn corner because everybody's there, even on foot. She had just given birth. She just runs up. Anyways, it shows Bruce, no helmet on, and he's giving the baby back to Jim. And he, he's talking to his kid to settle down. The baby's crying, obviously. Mm-hmm. Barbara's very relieved because her son is safe and the bad guys are unconscious. And, Jim says, I'm practically blind without my glasses. Siren's coming. You better go.
That's awesome.
So in this scenario, in year one, Jim Gordon knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Is Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure so does Barbara, having seen that display. Like, having gone from the mansion to this is like, oh, that was an act. Got it.
Exactly. You have to imagine that these two people are, two of the very few people who are privy to who Bruce Wayne really is, right?
Yeah.
And it's really cool, so Bruce Wayne takes off. And then the very last page of the series, or of this book, of this arc, is just Flash. Dent is, interrogating him in court. So he suddenly remembered all the notes that he took of everything the commissioner was doing and ratted out. Yeah. So this big tough guy who was like Mr. Loyal to the commissioner just rats everybody out.
Yep.
And it's December 3rd, and Jim is reminiscing about everything that had happened and how things are a little bit better, but they're not better at all. Like somebody who's
people at this point.
Yeah, somebody who's worse is going to take over the commission's spots. He's still lieutenant. He's lieutenant detective. He's not Commissioner Gordon at the end of the story at all.
Okay.
There's years later that something like that happens, right? And he talks about how when all the shit hits the fan again, he's got a call, or he's got a friend that he can call. It mentions here, there's some lunatic is trying to poison Gotham's water supply, calls himself the Joker. And then he says it's okay because he's got a friend he can call. And there's a really awesome shot of Batman on the last page. And that's how it wraps up.
Nice. Yeah, it's Jim Gordon like, oh, there's a crazy person? No, check it. I got my own crazy person.
I got my own crazy fool. That's right.
We're going to fight fire with fire. Watch this.
Yeah, it wraps up really nice. You know, they I think that Frank Miller kind of built up a lot of the crime stuff in the beginning and kind of wrapped it up a little fast at the end. But it really wasn't about all that. It was really just showing how quickly these two evolved in that very first year. So much shit happens. And so much is learned in that first year.
And how much they influenced each other.
Right.
You know, even without knowing it. You know, just through observing each other, they both changed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right.
So yeah, it's a very quick read. I know we drug it out a long time here, and there's a lot that I left out. You know, there's a lot that happens
more
that I didn't
good
talk
stuff
about. Yes.
In there that
it's
we
a
did
great
not
read.
Cover.
And I hope everybody decides to go pick it up.
Nice. Absolutely. You should. Because you will find no difficulty in finding year one in any form that you like. So if you were interested in this story, if this struck your interest, then yes, please definitely check out the book because there is a lot there to enjoy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was excellent. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I think we all just learned a lot about Batman and a little bit about ourselves.
Yes, very much. Yes.
All right, well, the next section is the hold list, where we talk about the other things we're enjoying, comic-related or not. I will go first. I wanted to talk about Solar Opposites on Hulu. So this is created by Justin Rowland and Mike McMahon. Justin is the co-creator of Rick and Morty, and Mike is a writer and producer on Rick and Morty, as well as the creator of the new animated series Star Trek Lower Decks. Have you seen that one?
I have not. I've heard about it, and I'm a big Trek. I wouldn't call myself a Trekkie. I love Star Trek, but I have not seen it.
Gotcha. Well,
short answer.
If you get a chance, you absolutely should. It's good. It has a really nice bouncy pace. Mm-hmm. It's a little Rick and Morty go to Starfleet Academy.
That's cool.
It's a fun concept. So
I love Rick and Morty, and I love Solar Opposites. So
it's definitely in that family, but also Star Trek.
Very cool.
Like officially, not like kind of pretending you're doing Star Trek. It's like actually officially Star Trek.
Literally an official Star Trek thing.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, no, it's great. You can tell it's for CBS though, because they definitely pull back on the gore aspect that typically goes with a Justin Rowland style.
Right.
So anything really gross gets a little cleanup.
Okay.
So it gets the PG-13 treatment. So like alien blood is green and does not have any details.
Right.
It's just green fluid.
Well, that's okay. We can get our fix for the awful stuff with the regular series.
Absolutely, because Solar Opposites, on the other hand, really leans into the gross. Just doesn't mind really diving in. Solar Opposites was originally created for Fox, but the project was shelved and then bought by Hulu. Fox, again, celebrating a long and storied history of screwing up television.
Yep.
There are 8 episodes. All of them are posted, so it's a quick ride. It is the simple story of Corvo, Terry, Yumulak, and Jesse, who must take refuge in America after their own planet pulls a Krypton and just blows up. It's a fun story, but it is also the dark tale of a tiny revolution that takes place entirely inside a terrarium that makes you completely forget the main story for like long stretches at a time. Like I think the season finale is I want to say it's 100% terrarium story. Like you see little glimpses of stuff happening in the background, like with the main characters, but no, forget it. It's all about that.
The tiny terrarium is people that have been stolen and shrunken.
Yes.
And all these troublesome folks that they meet along the way, they just get rid of by shrinking and putting into this rat nest.
Yeah. Yumulak is kind of playing his own version of like real Pokemon. And he's just like collecting people. And one of the main protagonists in this revolution you find was picked because he had a red shirt. And he had collected all the other people in all the other colored shirts. So if you like Rick and Morty and you like Lower Decks, you will like this.
Oh yeah, you will.
It's not Rick and Morty light. Like, it's good. It stands on its own, and I completely recommend it. If you get a chance, check it out.
Yeah, I always, when we were watching it, my youngest kid actually said that Solar Opposites is almost like a show that would be on interdimensional television. So I thought that was really funny.
It is. It's like a sitcom in the interdimensional cable system.
Yeah, in the Rick and Morty interdimensional television.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you will enjoy it, I think.
It is. It's great.
All right. Well, that leads us to our last segment of the week, our IRL Hero of the Week. And here's where we take a moment to spotlight heroes in our own universe. So this week, we're going to be talking about Mr. Mark Bernardin. Mark Bernardin is a writer, producer, and Fat Man Beyond podcast host, and he has leveraged the current limitations caused by coronavirus and has created the Plague Nerdalogs.
Nerdalogs.
This takes housebound performers and gives them something to perform. So in this case, it's famous monologues to perform for charity. So think famous bits from movies, TV shows, things you love being performed by new people that you like.
That's kind of cool. It's like seeing Who's on First performed by,
everybody. Yeah, it's
Jerry,
really neat.
Jerry Stiller and Ben Stiller.
There you go. That's a perfect analogy. Like it's watching really talented performers perform something that you know really well, which is
That's
a
cool.
neat thing to see how another artist interprets that.
Yeah, that's
that
fun.
scene. It's great. It's super fun. So the first season or collection, it raised $16,000 for No Kid Hungry, which is a charity working to end child hunger in America. And that's especially critical right now for kids who were getting their meals from school and are now stuck at home in food insecure environments.
That's awesome.
It is a great charity. It's a great cause. The Nerdalog's second season is set to benefit Black Lives Matter and features such performances as David Dastmalchian as Roy Batty in Blade Runner. Now, do you know who that is, David Dastmalchian?
I don't know David Dastmalchian.
Okay,
no.
you know the actor, you just don't know his name. So he was the tall Russian hacker in Ant-Man.
Oh, okay.
I love that guy. He's great in everything. His
Oh,
name
yeah,
is
he's
David
cool.
Dastmalchian, and he is playing Roy Batty in Blade Runner. It's awesome.
Okay.
Phil Lamar, who is the voice of everybody, including
Right.
all your favorite people on Futurama. He is playing Inigo Montoya in The Princess Bride.
Very cool.
And this one I held off. I made sure you didn't read this so that I could surprise you with this. Jonathan Frakes as James T. Kirk
That's amazing.
in Wrath of Khan.
Wow. No, that's
Yes.
awesome. I love Jonathan Frakes, number one.
Wouldn't that be great to watch
Yeah.
him perform Kirk's lines in Wrath of Khan? How
yeah.
awesome would that be?
That's amazing.
So, if that interests you, there are many, 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 many more examples of this on the site. So, it is clear going through this roster that Mr. Bernardin has serious connections.
For sure.
Yes, so for all of that, Mr. Bernardin, you are our IRL Hero of the Week. So check them out at theplaguenerdalogs.com and go support a critical cause and nerd out with a clean conscience.
Very cool. That's
All right.
awesome.
Well, that will do it. That's the show for this week. Next week, we will be covering Superior Spider-Man, number 1 through 5, where Doc Ock becomes Spider-Man. What the what? I am very excited because I love it when the shit gets weird.
It gets very weird.
So email us at mindingthemultiverse@gmail.com to recommend story arcs for us to cover in the future. Tell us what we're wrong about. Or if you have any of your own stories of bladder spasms caused by your own irresponsible use of explosives, send those in. Jeremy loves those. So,
Oh, yeah. I want to hear all those stories. Send them to me. I know that they're out there. All of you irresponsible firework people.
tell us about the favorite time it made you pee your pants. All right. For Minding the Multiverse, I am Gabriel.
And I'm Jeremy.
And remember, all of this is now canon.